Every single year, there's one division that feels more like a battlefield than a football schedule. Rivalries turn personal, games turn violent, and standings, they change every single week. This year, that chaos has a familiar address, the NFC North. For the second straight season now, it's an all-out war. 3 teams sitting on 5 wins, 4 quarterbacks trying to prove they're the guy, and coaching minds playing chess every single Sunday. There are no easy games here, no safe leads, and no mercy. And because of that and everything we're going to go over in today's video is exactly why the NFC North has once again become the most dangerous division in the entire NFL. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another KRICH banger as always, and we got the 4 hats for the 4 teams. You can't even see all of them because it's all 4 hats, but obviously, we have to start. I think we're going to start with the Lions. I don't know. You'll see when we put it on. But before we hop into today's video, make sure that you guys, as always, comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to see moving forward on what players we should be doing for our What NFL Players Think kind of series, and just stuff like that. Let me know what you guys want to see in the comment section. And who knows, maybe if I post one of those videos, I'll put your comment shouting you out as well. So would love to see that. Give me some ideas, because really, that's actually what I'm going to do going forward. I'm going to put your comment. If you give me a good idea and I make your video, I'll put your comment in the intro. So let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see. But as always, make sure you guys follow me on the Instagram over there. Same handle as we use on the YouTube. But now with all of that out of the way, we have to jump into just the NFC North, because really one of my favorite things about this division is just the unpredictability that comes with it every single year. Like, the 2 teams in first and second place stunned their fans with unexpected losses in week 9. And I'm going to start with one of those that has caught literally everyone off guard. And that's going to be the Green Bay Packers. Their loss as 13.5-point favorites over the Carolina Panthers is the franchise's biggest upset loss since the merger in 1970. And now look, I think that the reason this is such just a concerning loss for this team this year is because, well, it's not the only kind of crazy loss that they have suffered this year when it comes to their schedule. They've also lost to a Cleveland Browns team that looks very likely to be in the race for the first overall pick, and it's losses like that that just don't make sense. When these Green Bay Packers traded for Micah Parsons in the offseason, expectations quickly turned to Super Bowl glory too, and that's what happens when you already add arguably the best defensive player in the entire NFL, so it's far from ideal to drop 2 of the easiest games on your schedule. Being said though, Micah Parsons, as we all know, has just been an absolute stud still this year. He's already collected 6 sacks and 43 pressures in just 8 games, but he offers so much more than his own production, creating opportunities for the rest of the Packers' talented defensive line. I mean, Rashawn Gary has already matched his total of 7.5 sacks from last season and looks well on track to beating his career best. In fairness to this defense too, they did enough to get the win against both Cleveland and Carolina, conceding no more than 16 points in either game. It was the offense though that let them down, which is very confusing considering Jordan Love was looking like a guy who put his name in the MVP race earlier in the season. And now look, even though he may not be in the MVP race right now, he definitely still has done enough to just kind of have one of his best career seasons even after suffering the loss against Carolina. He's completed 70% of his passes for 2,071 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, and he's been playing some of the most controlled football of his career, distributing the ball well through his loaded wide receiver room while also generating big plays with his elite arm talent. In week 8, he tied Brett Favre's franchise record for 20 straight completions, which was set by the Hall of Fame quarterback back in 2007. This was arguably Jordan Love at his best, benefiting from the emergence of Tucker Kraft as one of the best tight ends in the NFL. In week 8, Kraft had 142 yards and 2 touchdowns and was really beginning to emerge as a focal point of the offense. Unfortunately though, he did suffer a season-ending ACL injury in the 13-point outing in week 9, which has certainly put a damper on what was looking like a red-hot Packers unit. With Kraft now out of the picture, Green Bay will have to once again find an answer to the question of who could be their wide receiver 1. For me, I'm still thinking that it's going to be Matthew Golden. I mean, I know the rookie hasn't quite found his footing in the league just yet, but he has come close to making some big plays, and we often see rookie wide receivers take significant stride forwards in the second half of a season. After him too, Romeo Doubs is still operating as a very reliable chain mover, and the return of Christian Watson has already been more than impactful, and even more impactful than some would have even imagined. As we all know too, adding Josh Jacobs at running back, who already has double-digit touchdowns on the year, and you still have a very talented offense and can make a deep playoff run. Yes, the surprise losses to Carolina and Cleveland are concerning, But these Packers have also managed to solve one of their biggest problems from 2024, which was beating the big teams. They absolutely hammered the Detroit Lions in week 1, which I do believe is a true representation of the 2025 Green Bay Packers, and I still think that they have a great chance of winning the NFC North this year. The next team that I do think has the best chance of topping them, though, is ironically those Detroit Lions. They have become the bully boys of the division, winning each of the last 2 NFC North titles. And now look, again, just like the Packers, they're coming off another surprise loss to a Vikings team that we really didn't know what team was going to show up when JJ McCarthy got out there. But I mean, again, I'm not too worried about this Lions team down the stretch. I think they're going to be able to figure things out and who knows, maybe even win the North. Jared Goff is proven as an elite quarterback and has a long list of offensive playmakers that most quarterbacks can only dream of. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown are each of one of the most dangerous players available at their position. Then beyond that, you still have to worry about Jameson Williams as an electrifying big play threat and David Montgomery as a physical yet still very shifty backup running back. The Sun God in particular stands out as one of the best value draft selections across the entire league, and I mean, ever since he was selected in the 4th round in 2021, he's been a menace for defenders, getting open with ease and catching essentially everything that comes his way. He's everything you could ask for in a safety blanket that also finds a bringing in 59 receptions for 635 yards and 7 touchdowns this year so far. Oh, and yes, on top of just explosive playmakers, if we're going to start talking about them, we have to, of course, talk about probably the most explosive playmaker on this offense and one of the most explosive playmakers in the entire NFL, Jahmyr Gibbs. He's already racked up 748 yards from scrimmage and 10 total touchdowns just this year, proving his quality with a red-hot 218-yard outing against Tampa Bay in Week 7, who definitely are no slouch of a defense. Both Gibbs and Montgomery can be rotated in and out seamlessly, as they're guys who can both run it up the gut while also being dangerous out in space as receivers. This versatility and depth keeps defenses guessing, and you can bet these boys know how to find the end zone. Since partnering up in Detroit too, Sonic and Knuckles have become the first set of teammates in NFL history to each total at least 2,000 scrimmage yards and 20 touchdowns in their first 25 games together in 2023 and 2024. They're also the first
concerned about that neck injury. Here's Gibbs, perfect throw.
And look, trust me, of course, having all of those weapons is very exciting to have out all on the field at one point, or at one time, I should say. But at the same time, too, you have to know how to utilize all of that firepower you have. As we all know, too, Ben Johnson became the hottest head coach on the market for how he masterminded this unit, meaning he left behind some pretty big shoes to fill. Thankfully, though, for Lions fans, the man tasked for taking over the role, John Morton, hasn't been much of a step down at all, helping Detroit post 29.9 points per game through 9 weeks, which is the second most in the entire NFL. Defensively, too, yeah, there's a lot to be excited for as a Lions fan. The departure of Aaron Glenn meant that there were question marks entering the season, but so far this unit doesn't appear to have missed a beat at all. They currently rank inside the top 10 for yards conceded per game with 294.8, and of course, Aiden Hutchinson is the star of the show as expected, leading the team with 7 sacks. He is not alone though, as Muhammad not far behind him with 6 sacks, but unfortunately, much like last year, this unit has been impacted by injuries, but when everybody returns healthy, their ceiling is sky high. But now let's switch our attention to the team that was able to get Ben Johnson away from the Lions. And look again, the Chicago Bears, not for the first time, were crowned as kings of the offseason for how they prepared for this 2025 campaign. Not only did they get the hottest head coach on the market, but they also completely refurbished their offensive line, which was one of the biggest problems from the entire 2024 season. Williams was sacked 68 times as a rookie in 2024, which is simply just not acceptable. That is a surefire way to make sure the face of your franchise picks up bad habits and loses games, and Ryan Poles and his front office recognized that that was the #1 priority to be fixed. Joe Thuney was a big name addition in free agency, offering a massive upgrade and a ton of experience as a 4-time Super Bowl winner, and then you add in Drew Dahlman as a top free agent center, and you get a much improved offensive line. The Bears' reward for this investment has been a much improved season from Caleb Williams so far as well, as he has already had 1,916 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, putting him on track to be the franchise's his first ever 4,000-yard passer. Helping him do that is a fantastic array of weapons too, which we have seen heavily bolstered over the last 2 seasons. Rome Odunze has been kind of inconsistent this year, but looks like a potential star X receiver, leading the team with 473 yards and 5 touchdowns through the air. Meanwhile, rookies Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, and Kyle Mononga have all flashed in recent weeks, giving Caleb a ton of options. And look, the guy, as we all know, that's going out there and deploying all of these weapons is Ben Johnson. And I think the first 2 games of this year too, when we first saw him and Caleb on, just working together out in those first 3 weeks, you could even say, of the season, it exactly wasn't the most convincing offense we were seeing out there. Everybody was kind of like, okay, Ben Johnson and Caleb aren't meshing that well. They need to figure this out. What is going on? Just a lot of question marks were still surrounding this offense. But I think that's also the thing too. We all know how probably complex Ben Johnson's offense is, and it's going to take time for those 2 guys, Caleb and Ben Johnson, to mesh together. And of course, it's a lot of moving parts, but as we've seen in the recent weeks, they're definitely starting to come and just kind of turn around a corner. Of course, it is dependent on every player at every position understanding their role and executing the finer details properly. And as the season does progress, we are starting to see them get better and better. They are coming off their best game in Week 9 over the Cincinnati Bengals, in which quarterback Caleb Williams did it all. He had 280 yards and 3 touchdowns passing, 53 yards rushing, and even 2 catches for 22 yards and a receiving touchdown. Unfortunately, their defense was embarrassed in that game and is still looking like a problem, albeit one that has been not helped by injuries. Still though, the most important thing for this year is to see progress on the offensive side of the ball, and they certainly have been seeing that. I mean, even with the division so tightly packed too, who knows what damage these boys can do as the season does progress. Maybe they can make a wild card spot later in the season for the playoffs. Now, our final team is the Minnesota Vikings, who just 1 week ago, they were being written off as a team who had no chance to compete this year, based largely on the fact that they might have messed up their quarterback decision over the offseason. JJ McCarthy looked, let's just say, shaky over his first 2 weeks of the season, and then when he only returned as an emergency backup to Carson Wentz, it appeared as if the Vikings were admitting that he wasn't ready to play. Like, remember, this is a team that had both Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold in the building in 2024, only to let both of them leave over the offseason and promptly become MVP candidates for their next team. Between the uncertainty over McCarthy and the decline on the defensive side of the ball, emphasized by a 37-10 hammering in prime time by the LA Chargers, the vibes were pretty low for Minnesota heading into Week 9. But then, just when they needed a season-altering win, they got one against none other than the Detroit Lions, and then all of a sudden, this looks like a totally different team. Like, for all the criticism sent JJ McCarthy's way, he's now 2-1 as a starter, with both wins coming against a division rival. He has certainly got to improve, but we still have to remember too, he's just 23 years old and has only played 3 games as an NFL pro. He still has plenty of adjusting to do, and the good news is too, he has one of the best offensive coaches in football to help him do that. The other good news for McCarthy too is that his supporting cast is just so damn talented, and that he only needs to deliver above average quarterback play to give his boys a chance. And look, that's what happens when you have arguably the best wide receiver in the league in the form of Justin Jefferson, and arguably the league's best wide receiver too in Jordan Addison. Jefferson's been doing what he does best, ticking over nicely with 649 yards and 2 touchdowns through 8 games, and this is a solid effort considering the inconsistency at quarterback, still ranking inside the top 5 of the NFL. I fully expect too, when McCarthy does find his footing, there's every chance we can see him rocket back up the leaderboard and show us just how dominant he can be once again. Then in the backfield, you've got a tidy 1-2 punch of Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, and as we all know too, Aaron Jones is getting on in years now, but he still remains a very shifty and versatile back who can do plenty of damage out of the backfield as a receiver. And look, I know Jones is a dynamic weapon, but as the older guy, you want to have someone to balance him out, so that's why the Vikings front office went out and got Jordan Mason over the offseason, an ideal complement as a much more physical runner of the ball. Defensively too, the Vikings have disappointed for most of the season, falling outside of the top 10 for yards and points. However, Brian Flores remains one of the best defensive minds in the game, and there is talent on the roster. There were big investments made over the offseason, namely Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, and the Week 9 win over Detroit showed flashes of them finding some form. I mean, look, anytime you can hold Detroit to 24 points, you've done a pretty solid job with the D-line sacking Goff 5 times as well. If these improvements continue for both JJ McCarthy and this defense, then we absolutely cannot be ruling these Vikings out yet. I mean, they even have a chance to make a run at the division, meaning we are in for one hell of a second half of the season. Like, this is 4 teams, 4 quarterbacks, and there are 0 guarantees. The Packers are loaded, the Lions are fearless, the Bears are evolving, and the Vikings, they just won't go away. The NFC North isn't just the toughest division in football, It's the most unpredictable story in the NFL right now.